My name is Peter Scott. I'm the CEO and founder of Burn, soon to be called ECOA as we go through our rebrand. Well, you know, my whole life's work has been to save forests in Africa, and so I feel very blessed that we've built this machine, this entity, that like every day is having a really transformative impact. So really, like, I love my job. Like, my favorite part of my day is work. Well, I've always loved mountain biking, and now my new side hustle is I want to make Kenya to be a mountain biking global destination. So we're building trails and helping to support mountain biking. So yeah, I've always loved mountain biking, and now I'm super excited about doing that here in Kenya. Probably my favorite ride was in the U.S. in Utah, in the big canyons. Those are amazing places to ride. I don't know if crashing into someone.
Someone crashing into you.
I'm a bit famous for not being risk averse, so I tend to go very fast, and oftentimes land in trees. But that's kind of my style. Well, not intentionally eccentric, but I think because I don't fit into the normal mold of a CEO or an entrepreneur, that yes, I would be seen as being eccentric. Well, in my earlier life, I was a pirate. Yeah. No, I have many friends. My kids of my friends are still not sure if I'm a pirate because I have an earring. I don't know, really. It's just something I've had since I was a kid, and so I just never. Yeah, I've had kind of the same haircut and the same earring probably for 40 years. So it's more habit, I would say, than anything. Yeah, this isn't like, it's not intentional. Like, this isn't like I'm not going for a certain thing. It's just kind of what happens when I wake up. But no, I guess compared to other CEOs, I suppose, I don't care about money or fame or status or my watch. So, I'm thinking about other things besides that, and everyone should be like it. We should be following, Jesus, not Bill Gates. So sorry, this is not the interview I was expecting, but great. Okay, my childhood. Well, when I was 14, I told my mom I was going to save the world, and she said, "Well, of course you are." And so I've been doing things to try to save the world ever since then. And yeah, I was very lucky when I was young to really be exposed to both the earth and nature and environment, as well as the struggle to protect those. Yeah, so that was I think, yeah. But I think I also, my parents were divorced. I probably, I didn't grow up wealthy. I kind of had a struggle as a child, and I think people who are have struggles end up becoming more sensitive to the plight of the earth, maybe. And so maybe the difficulty you experience personally, you can see that reflected in the struggle of the planet. It opens you up, opens your heart to that experience. No, it's not a mama's boy. I think I really looked up more to my dad when I was young, but I was more of a daddy's boy, I suppose. Although they don't really say that, but yeah, more like I really felt like my dad was was everything. He was the funniest guy and the brought people together and was like a. Oh, then my dad, I would suppose, yeah. But I guess, my parents are two very different people. My dad owned a car dealership, and my mom was a therapist. So those are two very unusual things. It's like seeing a bus driver who's married to a doctor or something. Do you know what I mean? Not that my dad was a bus driver, but anyways, I grew up, I had two very discrete, different parents who couldn't be more sort of different. Wow, okay. This is Business Daily. This isn't like therapy. Okay. Yeah. I think it's very good in the sense that my parents got divorced, because that static between these two totally different humans would have not been tenable. But it was good that I had both of those influences in my life. And so, if my parents hadn't got divorced, my mom moved me far away, where I was then exposed to this whole other world. If I hadn't been exposed to that world, I would have probably just, I don't know, become a lawyer like everybody else in my family or something. So if that hadn't happened, then none of this would exist. And so. Wow. Okay, that's a heavy question. Well, and to some degree, I sort of believe my life is perfect, and the whole past is exactly how it had to be, or else this current moment wouldn't be happening. So if I was to change one single element of it, well, then this current present wouldn't be here. So I don't spend much time thinking about what I would have changed in the past, or that would be then saying I'm not happy about the present, right? So and I think I'm very blessed. I think both of my parents were a bit kind of absent. So when kids were raised in the 70s in America, we were just kind of left to do whatever we wanted to do. So we just run wild. Our parents didn't really know what we were doing, which is sort of good and bad. They call them sort of latchkey kids, like you just were on your own. And so for me, I'm really interested in my kids' development. So I have 2 adopted kids and 1 natural born kid. My parents were more like, go off and do your own thing, and it's great, we love you and you'll be fine. So I think it's more like really trying to nurture my kids. If you can touch it, you can catch it. In America, or in Canada in the 70s and in Sundays, you couldn't buy a can opener because it was illegal, and we really needed a can opener. So my dad stole a can opener so I think my dad's rebellious streak, maybe was, I took more, not that I grew up to become a thief, but it was just like, well, okay, sometimes there's rules, and sometimes you're going to need to bend them. Again, if you're an entrepreneur, you're not just going to be like, well, you're just accept what's told to you. You're like, well, no, we have to create something new and different. And people are like, no, it'll never work, or you can't do it. I used to climb trees to protect them. So I blockaded logging roads and went to jail for a short period of time for that, for a few weeks. Not for stealing can openers, but for blocking logging roads, because there were like ancient forests that were being logged. I'd never felt more free. We went to jail intentionally. When we were blocking the logging road, and they took us off the road. They said, well, you just signed this thing and we'll let you go. Well, then you have to sign this thing saying you won't go back to blockade the road. And we said, oh, well, we're not going to sign that. Yeah. And then they said, oh, well, then you're going to have to go to jail. And then I said, oh, put me in jail. Yeah. So many of us went to jail. We filled the jail and helped to overturn the law. And it became the largest civil disobedience action in Canadian history. And we saved a huge piece of forest. And I think that experience gave me a sense of personal power or agency to be like, oh yeah, even at a young age, it's like, yeah, we can change the world. I love your questions. The most boring thing about me. I think sometimes my mind, I work so hard that when the day is over, I just need to lie down. And so sometimes I just need to go home and sleep. And so I think my wife would prefer that I'm not sleeping. And so, I'm trying to figure out how to work-life balance, because just the mental energy that I consume trying to do all of this is like running a marathon every day. Probably living up to my own expectations of who I should be in every moment. I talk a very big game, and so there's maybe times where I'm not not living up to that as fully as I should, and that's a challenge, right? Like, we should be living like Gandhi or Jesus, and I'm not living up to that for sure. Like, the guiding principles of Burn are HAM, which is honor your word, assume goodness, and mission over money. And so always honoring your word perfectly is always a challenge. Assuming goodness, mission over money, that's kind of easy. But even that, like, always you have to go back to, like, what is the core principle, those three core principles, and they're guiding lights for us, or like things that we try to attain. But again, we're not perfect, flawless human beings, obviously. Yeah, just my health, just trying to be healthy and not work too much. Community, probably. Yeah, for me, I miss that. I'd like to build more of that here. And in a way, it is a community, but more like, I'm also still a hippie, so I want to have lots of people living on the land and growing food and milking goats and all of those things and playing music. So how to do all those things and still create this is. I can't imagine this is going to be in the Business Daily. Just probably sense that, like, the world that we've built here just seems crazy to me on every possible level, and so I think I've always felt that, like, what humans do is just a bit bizarre to me. Well, it's a bit of sort of innocent until proven guilty, I suppose, is part of it on the sort of the shallow or superficial level. But you could never know someone's heart or their true intentions, so you have to in some ways make that up. So you can either make up a good story or a bad story about those people. And because we're a huge team that spans multiple countries, thousands of people interacting, and so you have to operate on some level of trust. You shouldn't be naive, but just that, like, mistakes happen, right? And it's also a bit of magic, right? If I assume you're good, then I'm going to help you become good, right? Like, it's all like, we're trying to work with, like, deep ideas here. Who I imagine you to be somehow is how you become. The soundtrack of my life is War by Bob Marley. You don't know that song? War? Until the philosophy that holds one race superior and another inferior, and until the human race. No? Education. Like work ethic, desire, bravery, patience, honor, loyalty. Those things are worth gold. It's not really an education. Like, not like a PhD. In the weight of the world, that's nice, it's 5%, but patience, bravery, loyalty, truth, justice, those things are what should be taught and what is truly important. I think my ability to solve most problems. So whether it's a problem of what the box should be, how we should design a stove, how we should create a structure that works. So it's just, I'm just, that's really all I'm doing all day is just problem solving. Everything. And then figuring, I think, the world throws you just more and more difficult problems. No, I've not done my job. Well, nor would it ever be. People sort of laugh at saving the world. Of course, the world will be fine. It's just about humans and how do we make a blah, blah, blah. But I don't really think that. Like, really, we're trying to save the fabric of this universe, of the precious planet. And so how do we do that in every moment? And the planet is in crisis, right? The whole thing is kind of collapsing. And again, why people are thinking about money, fame, status, when we have, like, real solid work to do to save the fabric of the only, like, life we know on the universe. It's a really big job. And why everyone isn't doing that, and instead they're thinking about Bugattis or Ferraris or status or fame or wealth, power, or their own little world. It's like there's really big work to do. And so that's why I think it's good people want to come and work at Burn, because we're playing a big game. When I was younger and I first started doing this, I could maybe make one stove a day, which would maybe change 5 people's life. So now we can change. And that with Burn, the goal is to do 1 million stoves a month, maybe slightly more. So 1 million of those products made per month, right? So there'll be 5 million lives changed in that 1 month. And that's like, I don't know who else is playing that big a game. So like the product that we make has that ability to impact. And there's 2.4 billion people that don't have access to clean cooking. So the goal is to like get one of our products to all of those 2.4 billion people. Oh, my wife. Oh, okay. My wife is maybe the most noblest creature most noblest human, I think, that's maybe alive on the planet today. She thinks I have a really good heart. You should know my wife. I mean, she's the noblest human alive on the planet. You should definitely interview her. She's a much deeper and better person than I am.